And it meets the legal definition of rape, as I said, for those reasons. It's what we call statutory rape. There's a statute, which is a directive that outlines the parameters of what rape is and is not. And Lorne's behavior falls into that classification of attempted statutory rape. He didn't do it, so there was no 13-year-old girl, thankfully, but that was his intent. So he intended to commit this violence, this mental violence. And of course, we would say that that's a form of physical violence as well, had he committed the physical act for the same reasons. It's just the physical is just an extension of the mental violence that he'd already committed against her. So, to bring that back to, I forget just now exactly what we were talking about before we got off on the issue of rape.
Well, I have two questions that I just thought of. Say again?
Sure. I was just going to finish my thought from earlier, which is that, look, there is no justification for what he did, okay? But this macaroni and meatballs thing is an incredibly weak attempt to justify it. If he had an excuse like, my parents abused me and I never developed a healthy understanding of what sex is, and that's why I like children, right? That's a common one. That's one that a lot of pedophiles use. That's not an adequate defense for the action. But it at least shows something, right?
There was 3 years worth of mac and cheese stories from people I idolized.
Saying that the reason that he tried to rape a 13-year-old girl in Nashville, or I think in Kentucky, because years before somebody said they were going to give him macaroni and meatballs and then they didn't, that is flimsy. That is ethereal. That has no... that's weak. That's weakness upon weakness. And I hope that you can see through that. I understand that it's hard for you to look at this situation objectively because you feel like you have some connection to this person, but I hope you can see, just if you can separate yourself from your position and from your relation to the situation for a second and just see objectively what a weak defense that is. What if, do you have any nieces or nephews?
Yes.
Okay. You have a niece?
Yes.
Okay. How old?
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to switch over, but yes. I have two. They are both trying to think.
I'm assuming they're underage. Are they underage?
Yes.
Okay, well that's good enough. So
hang on, real quick. Let me put my headphones on for real quick. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you found out one day, and this, I don't mean to I know it's uncomfortable to even talk about this as a theoretical, but if you found out that somebody had done what Lorne tried to do to one of your nieces, and that was their defense, would you have any sympathy for that person at all?
No, I wouldn't have any sympathy for anyone who tried that with my nieces, regardless of their defense.
Lorne tried that. That's what I'm getting at. The thing that you just said you wouldn't have any sympathy, the thing that you just said you wouldn't be able to forgive or mitigate if somebody else did it, that's what Lorne tried to do.
But here's what he's always said to me.
Well, here's what that guy in my theoretical situation said. He said, hey, I had a rough life and I was lonely family, and my siblings screwed me over out of some money.
No, he was raised by his mom, and she seems like a nice lady. He was raised by his mom. I only talked to her once, but she seems like a very nice lady.
Okay.
But okay, well here's what he said to me. Well, he used this word one time, I think, and it's always like rung with me because it was like, well, what if he's right? And he used the word entrapment, and he said that they entrapped him because he said that he was in an adult chat room.
Okay.
He's told me that many times.
But he thought the person he was talking to was a 13-year-old. So if I walk into a bar, which is an establishment intended for adults, and I see a 13-year-old girl in that bar, and I rape her, am I in the clear because she was in an adult establishment?
Well, no, but like he wasn't looking for a kid.
Okay, so if I go into a bar looking for a woman my age, and I don't find one, but I meet a 13-year-old and I rape her, am I okay?
No, I see what you mean. I mean, but like,
I know it's tough but these are the things we have to be able to look at objectively. This is what I mean when I say there is no mitigation for what he did. I don't care what his butt is. I don't care what his but you don't know the whole story. I don't need to know the whole story. I know the part of the story where he tried to rape a 13-year-old. The rest of the story is irrelevant to me. If his part of the story is he tried to rape a 13-year-old, the rest of the story is immaterial.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I mean, could he come back and say, well, there was no 13-year-old?
Sure, there was no 13-year-old, but he didn't know that. He made it all the way to that house under the auspices of there being a 13-year-old girl there who was going to have sex with him.
And he's told me many times that he didn't want to go and that he wasn't planning to have sex that night. He's told me that numerous times.
Why did he bring condoms?
Because he said he always had them in his truck. He said he always
When she asked him, did you bring the condoms, why did he gleefully respond, yes, I did?
She asked me to bring condoms and a gift.
Like, in the chat, like, because like in the chat he had said, like, because in the chat I skimmed through it and I remember he said in the chat that he was going to bring condoms.
Mm-hmm. Why, do you remember from the chat log why he said he was going to bring condoms? I remember why. Do you? I can tell you if you don't remember.
I don't even know if I read the why, but I guess like he was.
He said he was bringing them so he could have sex with her. He also said in one of the recorded phone calls.
Recorded phone calls.
You didn't know about the recorded phone calls.
What call? What do you like? He like somebody hacked into my phone and there's calls online. But what are you talking?
Oh no, this is one of the legal protocols for the sting operation was that they needed to have him talk to one of their decoys on the phone.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, Lorne had several phone conversations with one of the decoys from the sting who posed as the 13-year-old girl he was chatting with.
But wait,
those phone calls.
But wait, the that doesn't make any sense because, like, I mean, whoever he was talking to, whoever did this online, was an adult, and
sure, yes, they were an adult, but there are,
so there was no child talking to him.
Right, but he didn't know that. He thought he was talking to a 13-year-old child.
But how? I mean, like,
this was an actress with a high-pitched voice that was able to impersonate the 13-year-old with a high voice. And these are the people that the decoys that do these things are trained. They're trained to be able to imitate children.
So she sounded young.
I'm tired of this guy trying to make me look bad. I did some wrong shit. I paid my price already.
Yeah, she actually sounded quite a bit younger than 13, if I'm being candid, which I love to be because I like the word candid. She sounded 8 or 9 to me, but it was an adult, just an actress that was trained to, be able to talk with the vocabulary and articulation and mannerisms of a child. And there were several phone calls over the course of the month that he was talking to this person, and they were recorded, and they are available online.
Where?
It's on YouTube. I found them as I was doing my research when I found the NBC footage and watched that interview. And then that led me to the police interview, which is also on YouTube. And then that led me to the recordings of the phone calls. And but anyway, in the last phone call that he had with the decoy before he left...
You never told me any of this. I am defending you, though.
They were talking about, he said he was getting ready to leave the house. I think the house was, the two locations were about an hour away from each other, I believe. So he was giving her a time frame of how long it was going to take him to get to her house. He said, I have to get gas and I have to go buy condoms so I don't get you pregnant. That is what he said to what he thought was a 13-year-old girl. And then, when he showed up at the house, she asked him, did you bring the condoms? And he said, yes, I did. He didn't say, why do you need to know that? He didn't say, you're 13, don't ask me about condoms. He said, yes, I did, with a big smile on his face.
Wait, so there was an actual... Because I skimmed through so wait, so this thing was more than just... so there was an actual girl at the house, like a 13-year-old girl at the house? I didn't know.
No, she was an 18-year-old actress who just looked very young. They auditioned actresses that looked young, and they found one who she's of legal age, but she was an actress who was trained, who was coached to talk like a 13-year-old, and they dressed her like a 13-year-old and that sort of thing. It was they did that in order to legitimize the situation that these guys were showing up in. There was an actress there, and her job is to basically get these guys to admit, to discuss the reason that they're there, because obviously that makes the case easier to prove in legally. You see what I'm saying? In other words, if they can get them saying, in so many words, I am here to have sex with you, and you are 13, then that gives the prosecution more liability, when it comes to prosecuting the case. So but that's what happened, and that's video evidence and audio evidence.
And the girls in the pic weren't the same girl, but I was so old of it, I couldn't see it. And I have the sting on DVD, and it was edited.
So it's incontrovertible. He can't. And I might add that the video is one continuous long take with a timestamp. So he can't say that it was edited because it's all one continuous stream of footage shot from one angle with a timestamp.
Edited to make it look like, like he...
Unedited.
No. I mean, he can't say that it's edited to make it look
right.
like...
Yeah, exactly right. He can say that, they cut something out because the footage is uncut. It's raw footage, all from one camera. So, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't know these things, but I'm glad that you know them now, and I'm hoping that now you are seeing why I treat this as such an obvious an obvious issue in terms of there's no ambiguity, there's no vagueness here in terms of looking at the situation and saying, well, maybe this and maybe that, maybe this and maybe that. And what I want to point out to you is that if all you're doing is listening to his side of it, then of course you're going to get a heavily edited, heavily cherry-picked version of the facts. But I'm looking at this on the basis of information that is freely and publicly available to all. And that's the reason why when he says, well, you don't know the whole story, well, there's more to the story, it has no effect on me because I know what he did. The parts of the story I know are incontrovertible, and they make it, they render any additional elements of the story inconsequential, irrelevant. Because he tried to have sex with a 13-year-old girl. And I don't care why.
But I mean, it was 10 years ago. Like, can it be, like, erased?
The fact that he did it can never be erased. Can his tendencies be changed? Possibly. But as I said before, that requires a degree of self-awareness and personal responsibility that he does not seem to possess. And I might add that the fact that he's pursuing you, somebody who's half his age, indicates that he still has a predilection for romantic targets, liaisons, or relationships that are significantly younger than him. So I would say the tendency is still there.
But could my age and, like, him pursuing me, couldn't that just be a consequence, or not a consequence, a coincidence?
It could be. Do you want to take that chance?
I never hid it from you. We should have talked more about it. Your age has nothing to do with my feelings for you.
So what, okay, like, I know my parents talked to you several times with just them, and I'm curious to know, like, what their concerns are here. Like, I mean, my dad, I don't know if you know this, but, like, my dad was bawling the day that he found out, and he couldn't even speak.
He was visibly emotional in both of the sessions that he was present for. And,
I'll bring him on when you meet, if you want me to.
he was reserved in the session that we all did together, but it was pretty clear to me that, yeah, he's very upset about it. The nexus of his concerns is manifold, because on one level, he's concerned about your basic safety. You don't know anything about this guy in terms of, you don't know what you're getting into if you go see him, right? You're a pretty young, petite girl who's going into the lion's den, potentially. You're going onto his turf, and you don't know what kind of person he is in terms of, is he violent? Is he, you don't know any of that. So on a very basic level, he's concerned about your safety, okay? He's concerned about your safety, in a more nuanced way, because he's concerned about the premise that even if this guy is not some psycho who's going to do something to you when you show up there, he still is an alcoholic, or potentially an alcoholic. We know that he's verbally abusive. And I can tell you from professional experience that the line between verbal abuse and physical abuse is very blurry for many people. So one is some, to say that one is present is to say there's a possibility at least that the other is present. So there's that aspect of it, okay? He's concerned about your general well-being because you're with somebody, this guy can't support you, doesn't have a career, doesn't seem to have any skills. I mean, in terms of being able to do more than going from one job to the next. He's out of work now. that sort of thing. So
has so many skills to make money, it would make this guy look poor.
there are concerns about that if it were to turn into a marriage partnership, right? Somebody's got to pay the bills and put food on the table and pay the rent or the mortgage. And, does that fall to you if he doesn't, if he can't even take care of himself when he doesn't have a wife? There's that, okay? Then there's the aspect of starting a family and all the things I talked about regarding that. And he is a sex offender who seems to have a interest in younger girls, and those sorts of proclivities manifest themselves all the time with children, unfortunately. That's a terrible thought, but you certainly don't want to take that risk, I wouldn't think. And your father doesn't want you to be ever in that situation. There's the fact that he's almost 50, and you're in your 20s. And what happens when you are 40, excuse me, and he's 70? He drinks. Does he smoke?
Yeah.
Okay. He does, like you said, okay, he smokes cigarettes. What happens when this guy gets lung cancer or dies when he's 70? Excuse me. And he leaves you alone with a couple of kids or something, or whatever else. And now you're in the middle of your life, and those are those things are less of a factor, I would say, objectively, but that is still something to consider. And from the standpoint of a father, I didn't want my daughter ending up with some guy that's 30 years older than her, because that's just strange. What does a 50-year-old have in common with a 25-year-old?
My dad smoked since he was in his teens, and he's almost 80 now.
You know what I mean? Objectively speaking, you were at two different phases in your lives.
What phase is he in? What phase am I in?
You're in the phase where you're still building and cultivating your life. You're a young professional. You're working your way into a career. I would assume that's the objective. You're trying to establish yourself in that regard. When you're 25, you're still trying to discover who you are and what you want out of life. You may know that you want this kind of family or these kids. You want X number of kids. You may not know that yet. You may still have some adventures that you want to take and some things that you want to do, traveling, maybe go back to school, things like that.
I really enjoy traveling, yeah.
Okay, well, he's at an age where he's at an age where he should be thinking about retirement in 10 or 20 years, and instead he's probably going to have to work until he can collect Social Security or something, if that even exists when he gets to that age.
I'm tired of this guy.
If that's even still an option for people. But his unfortunately for him, I would say unfortunately for him, his circumstances have a lot more bearing on his station in life than his age because of his past. He is a felon or an ex-con. He has that record. He has certain limitations about travel and places he can go socially and things like that. These are all.
Well, here's one thing. Yes, he can't leave the country, and I do want to travel internationally. I know he can't leave the country, but if he gets permission from his probation officer, he can certainly leave the state.
It's not about a travel. It's not about a travel restriction. What I'm saying to you, Ramona, is that you're at a stage in your life where you're still discovering who you are and experiencing the world and making discoveries about what kind of life you want to have. You need to be with somebody who's doing the same.
And discovering that your therapist is married and hitting on you.
Or you need to be with somebody who's already established. If I could be so bold, somebody like me, somebody who has a successful career and is financially secure and self-sufficient, and has a good understanding of who he is, and can offer you some stability in that way. Some women are attracted to older men, and that's a wonderful thing. But if you're going to be with somebody like that, it needs to at least be with somebody who can offer you some reciprocity in terms of your station in life. And Lorne can't do that. And when you compound all of those detriments that I've just identified about him with the fact that he seems to have a drinking problem, seems to have an anger issue, seems to be abusive under certain conditions, and may or may not still have these sexual issues, which are very alarming if he does, there's no upside. I mean, it's lose all the way down the line. There's literally no benefit to you to stay with a person like that.
And my love is true for you.
But what if, he, but what if he's, a good companion? If he turns out, he's a good companion? He's, because, we already know he's funny, so that's a good thing. But, what if he's, fun to be around? And I don't know if he is. I haven't been around him, but...
Yeah. In that case, then you've got a guy who still has all of those detriments, but it's fun to be around. So you have to ask yourself, how much is that worth? In terms of, is he fun to be around when he's drunk and he's calling you a bitch? Does that sound like fun? Is he fun to be around when he says, I'm taking our 13-year-old daughter out for a driving lesson, and you're not sure whether or not that's all he's going to do when he gets her alone?
But, even if he's, even if he is attracted to children, that doesn't mean that he would be attracted to, his children.
Is that a risk you want to take?
Oh my god, I don't like this disgusting asshole.
You understand how common it is for girls to be abused by their fathers that way? It's not, fortunately most fathers don't, but a lot do. Is that a risk you want to take? Something you wouldn't know until it happened, right?
So, so this guy, he should be single forever?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that he should be with somebody who is congruent to his station in life. If I'm being candid, he needs to be with somebody his own age, who lives where he lives, who is not going to have to carry the brunt of that relationship in the worst case scenario. See, the worst case scenario, and that's what you have to look at. The worst case scenario for you with Lorne is you've got a deadbeat who's 30 years older than you, can't keep a job, can't stop drinking, can't stop being abusive to you, and you've got to carry that guy. That's the worst case scenario.
I keep jobs.
What Lorne needs is to firstly work out his issues. Whether he ever will or not, I don't know. But that's what he needs to do. And
whether he what, you said?
Whether he will or not, obviously, that's up to him. Who knows, right?
He has therapists and counselors.
Well, had they compelled him to stop getting drunk and calling you names on the phone? He would say, yeah, for the last 2 weeks. I would say 2 weeks is a drop in the bucket. Talk to me in 5 years. But even after that, what Lorne needs is, if I'm just to be crude, a 50-year-old woman, because he's a 50-year-old man, or somebody close to it, who comes from where he comes from, who's geographically in his proximity.
This guy needs an enema.
Well, his dream girl is Olivia Newton-John, I remember he told me.
Well, she's about 70, so...
So there he can't be a pedophile because he likes someone who's, like, literally...
Well, I don't think... He didn't chat to Olivia Newton-John every night for a month and send her pictures of his penis. That was someone he thought was a 13-year-old girl he did that to.
But, like... I mean...
I'm defending you.
Okay, well, here's a question. Like, when you guys, when therapists say, like, such and such a thing is a red flag, such and such a thing is a red flag,
Yeah.
why is it bad to ignore the, I mean, like, okay, like, if he, I don't know how to word it, like...
Well, let me turn that question, I think I know what you're getting at, so let me turn that question around on you. Why is it good to ignore it? Why do you ignore it?
Because you believe in me.
Because it's bad, right?
Well, I ignore it because, like, you know, if I just go into everything blindly, then I don't have to think about the stuff that, you know, makes me uncomfortable. So I can just enjoy.
But you have to deal with the consequences of it when it manifests itself, don't you?
But what like, how would we know that it would manifest itself?
I know. I love you.
Because it has before. If I come to your house every day for 100 days, and every day I walk into your house and I smack you on the face and I call your name, what would you expect me to do on the 101st day when I show up at your house? If every day before I come in and I smack you on the face and I call your name, what is the reasonable expectation from me on the 101st day?
But he's never hit me.
You're missing the point. This is not about the specific behavior I'm using in my hypothesis. What I'm saying to you is that if somebody exhibits a consistent pattern of behavior, you know, have you ever heard the expression, one definition of insanity is doing the same thing every day and expecting different results? Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Okay. So if you encounter the same behavior from a person consistently over time, by that axiom, it is insane, it's crazy to expect anything different the next day. Now, if that person puts in the work and makes a sustained and concerted effort to address the issues they have that make them do the things that are bad behavior, and they exhibit a real change over time, that's indicative of improvement and growth.
So at what point, or like how long would Lorne have to go without doing certain things for you to say, okay, he's a changed man?
That's not something you can put a timetable on. We don't make those evaluations on the basis of chronology. We make those evaluations on the basis of being able to detect fundamental changes in the way a person thinks. See, for Lorne to tell me, I've gone 2 weeks without drinking and being abusive, even if he were to say, hey, I've gone 2 years without doing those things, in the context of the conversation that I had with him tonight, it wouldn't change my analysis of him at all. Because what I heard from him tonight that was so troubling, that was so deeply vexing for me, is that he deflects responsibility for his actions.
Unable to change my thinking because you took 9 months to let me know you're real and you care about me. There's more to the story. There's always more to the story. There's always something that somebody else did or some other thing that happened that you don't know about, and that's the reason why I made this mistake, and it's not really my fault. If I were ever to encounter Lorne in a similar context to the conversation we had here tonight, and I saw that aspect change, then I would say he's on his way to getting healthy. But I believe that he is deeply deluded, and that's not where you're concerned. The problem is that the efforts he's making to change his behavior, they don't go deep enough because it's the issues behind the behavior that I'm concerned with. But beyond that, he's making these efforts to change his behavior for the wrong reasons. He's doing it to please you. That's not, and that's not only that's not the right reason, because that's not a lasting, and it's not a profound, focused. The objective for him has got to be, I need to be a healthy person, and that's why I'm making these changes. I'm not doing it for anybody else's benefit, or I'm not doing it for anybody's approval. To draw from the Christian religion for just a moment. In the New Testament, there were these characters called Pharisees, and they would say their prayers to God very in public places, very loudly, with a loud voice, making a spectacle out of themselves. And what the Messiah said was, God is concerned with the things that you do when you're alone in your prayer closet, when no one can see you.
I've heard that expression.
Yeah, it's easy to be pious and holy when you're in the public square and you want everyone to see you being pious and holy. But what God is concerned with is what you do when you're behind closed doors and He's the only one who can see you. And that's my point about Lorne. The things that he's doing right now, he's doing so that you'll see him doing them.
Well, I have a question for you. Have you heard that song, or have you heard, there's a band called Hoobastank, and they have a song called The Reason, and I used to love that song, but basically it's saying that he changed because of her. I found a reason to change who I used to be, a reason to start over new, and the reason is you. And like that song, could that be a song that encapsulates my...
Well, I see what you're saying, but the song, I would say just evaluating the song, it's not just accomplishing. Of course, it's just, the song.
Ding, 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 we have a winner with what you said.
They just make it a song, so it's a little oversimplistic, but the dynamic is there. You have to be able to make a distinction between what I believe Lorne is doing, which is that he's acting differently because he wants you to see him acting differently. If you broke up with Lorne, which I am still under of the opinion that you should do, for the record, and which is what I will tell your parents. It would be different if you were to break up with Lorne and then Lorne was alone again. And in that state of loneliness, he looked at himself honestly, candidly, if you will, and he said, I need to change because I want to have a love. I would like to have a relationship. I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. So I'm going to work on changing. And through that experience, he was able to legitimately identify the issues that he had and change them. That's one thing. But it's another thing for him to say, you want me to change this behavior, and I want to be with you, so I'll change this behavior. Because the behavior is just the effect. The cause is the psychological issues that drive the behavior, and that's what needs to change in Lorne in order for him to become a healthy person. And that's what can't happen until he learns to take responsibility for himself, which is something that I don't see him being able to do at the time.
Now, why? Can I be the reason why he decides that he wants to make the change?
Ultimately, no. I say no. You can't. Because wanting to please somebody else is not sufficient to consistently drive. As I said, that can be enough of a motivator to compel one to change one's behavior, is outward behavior. Okay, but I'm less interested in Lorne not drinking ever again than I am in Lorne dealing with the things that make him want to drink in the first place.
You are the reason I listen, and that's making me change.
That's the issue. And it's almost never the case that simply wanting to please another person is sufficient to sustain a profound change in one's psychology over the course of time. And that's what we would be looking for in order for Lorne to be a good candidate for a relationship. But the issue here is, and the reason why this is so confounding, is that even if he were to make those, to find himself enough, come to the end of himself enough to be able to make that growth, you still have all the other issues ahead of you to deal with. The age difference and the issue of his ability to financial stability, and just the fact that psychologically you need to be with somebody who's in more or less the same phase of their life that you're in, because then you share experiences together and you grow each other. You see, a 37-year-old has psychological needs that a 13-year-old can't satisfy. That's one of the reasons why these child rapists, would-be rapists, these sex offenders, are doing such a violence to the children they try to hurt. Because an adult has psychological needs that a child can't satisfy. Okay, now I say that to draw this parallel in a much less extreme but still a significant way. A 50-year-old has psychological needs that a 25-year-old can't satisfy.
Now, what about how he always says that I've changed him so much?
Love has nothing to do with age, as long as they're of age.
Well, you're a motivator for a change in his behavior because he wants to affect. But as I said, that's not sufficient to elicit a real, profound, sustained change in his psychology, because eventually that will fade and that will pass. Right now, you're new and you're exciting to him, and you're a mystery, a little bit of a mystery, and you're still a novelty. And, those are the sorts of psychological factors that cause initial attraction, and they're very important. But those are the things that compel a person to temporarily modify their external behavior for the purposes of attracting or pleasing or impressing another person, right? But it's when those things fade and you've been together 15 years and he doesn't care when you wake up with no makeup on, or you don't care that he's got a beer gut, or that his back is hairy. When you see people at their worst, right?
Well, he's tried to get me to send him, he'll say, send me a picture of you, like what you look like now, and I'm like, oh my God, my hair's a mess, I look disgusting. And he's like, I don't care, you're beautiful. Isn't that part of it?
You're not new. Your 9 months of trusting and special time together, that's always meant a lot to me.
Not really, because he probably is legitimately attracted to you. So,
So he's attracted to me. So there's right there.
Well, sure, but that's just a physical attraction. That fades. That's not anything you want to build a relationship on. The physical aspect of attraction, the physical attraction is there so that two people will get each other's attention. But it's what happens after that, as they work to keep each other's attention, and the relationship grows in profundity and becomes something of substance. The looks, the physical attraction. Any relationship where the physical attraction is the foundation, that relationship is doomed to fail. And it either will fail or it'll be an unhappy reunion. in that relationship have a self-awareness and an introspective ability and an insight to be able to say, okay, we've got to develop these higher order strata, the dynamics of the relationship.
What we have is trust and interest in each other, and that's what we need to make it.
And I will say, based on what I know of Lorne, he is severely lacking in either self-awareness or in emotional depth to be able to make those kinds of leaps. Look, the fact of the matter is that he's 47 and he's never been married. He's never had. I mean, unless you know something I don't, I don't know that he's ever had a sustained, that kind of long-term, profound, sustained relationship. And that tells me something about his ability to have that kind of relationship.
How long would you consider long-term?
I can't. There's no time. I mean, it's not about a time. It's not about a period of time. It's about the speed, the rate at which people grow and develop and grow together, and that sort of thing. But I would say in your case, you've got all of these factors that you're looking at, and he loses on all of them. He strikes out on all of them. And I think for your sake, you need to recognize that you can do better and that you deserve better than that. And I'm not going to say that he deserves better, too. I'm going to say that he deserves, that what he needs is something that's suited to him and his station in life. And you're not it. You're just not it.
But, is he ever gonna, he might never, find another 24-year-old again.
No. Maybe he'll take that as a wake-up call and start looking for somebody that's suited to him instead.
Well, I didn't mean it like that, but,
How did you mean it?
So you've just named all these great things about me. You've said that I'm beautiful. You've said that I'm smart. You've said that I'm really young. You've said that I'm, but not too young. I'm not underage. You've said that I'm, and I didn't mean that as a joke, but, you've said that I'm a professional. You've said all these wonderful things about me. What if he never finds that again in someone like me?
Is that your problem? Should you limit yourself and put yourself in a situation that's not the best for you because he may never get lucky again? Is that fair to you? You know the answer I'm looking for with that question. The answer is no. It's not fair to you. It's not your responsibility to suffer so he can have something that he wants.
But what if I don't? If I... say he moves down here, and he gets a job driving truck, and there's this state is smaller than, my state's smaller than his, but there's more opportunity in my state, way more opportunity in my state, even though it's much smaller. Sure. But let's say, so he moves down here. I live in an apartment. He doesn't want to live in an apartment. So we get a trailer. There's a trailer park that's a
you couple of miles. You want to live in a trailer park? You want to live in a trailer park?
I don't know what they're like. I've never lived in one before.
Is it fair to you that people around you are trying to dictate your life in a house? I've never lived in trailer park.
You ever hear anybody say, we're selling the mansion, we're going to live in a trailer park for a while. We're finally going to live in our dream of a trailer park. You ever heard that before?
No.
I don't mean to insult anybody who lives in a trailer park, but sometimes you need to live in a trailer park. But there's not too many people saying, "I got to get out of this apartment and get me into a trailer park." Just being candid.
Well, I only know a few people who live in mansions, and one of them spends more time in my apartment than he does in his mansion. Oh, that's my surgeon friend who my mother won't shut the freak up about. But yeah.
He sounds like he could be a good catch to me.
Wait, say again?
I could be a good catch too. I said he sounds like he could be a catch to me based on what your mom's told me about him.
Oh gosh.
But I could be a good catch too. That was a joke. But the point is that, anyway, look, it's not about living in a trailer or not living in a trailer. It's about, did he ask you where you wanted to live?
No. He just said he wasn't going to live in an apartment.
Well, sounds like he's awfully interested in where he wants to live. To me.
I want a house and I like big houses, and there's a lot of them in my state.
What does he think of that?
He had told me, well, I told him that I like big houses. He said that the size of the house doesn't matter. And
yeah, well, I guess if you're paying for it, it shouldn't for him, right?
But he's gonna, because he said that, once he moves down here, I'll have to take care of us for a while before he finds a job. But then once he finds a job, I guess.
Does that sound good to you?
I want to have a house with you. I will pay for the house. This guy is irritating.
What do you mean?
I'm taking care of him until he finds himself a job.
Well, it shouldn't take him long because he said he never had a problem finding a job.
Well, he doesn't have one now. That's curious. For someone who doesn't have a problem finding one, seems like he must either not want one or maybe he has more trouble finding one than he thinks he does. Or that he's letting on that he does.
I've had to move and Uncle Rich is dying.
But and plus...
No, there's you're fighting very hard for this. And that's interesting to me. It's intriguing. And I want to point something out to you, and then I want to ask you a question. What I want to point out to you is this. There's a dynamic at play in our conversation here. This is something that we've been doing for the duration of the time we've been talking, which is that I will point out a reason why I don't think he's a good fit for you. And what you do, rather than responding to that reason, is you move on to some other aspect of the situation.
What do you mean?
And in my let's say that I say something like, he has an anger problem, right? And I give you I say, let's look at all the factors here, and we come to the conclusion that he has an anger problem. And we come to that conclusion, or I bring us to that conclusion, so convincingly that you can't deny it. You can't argue with it. Okay? In that moment, you know that I'm right. Because I've brought you to the end of the argument, as it were. I've made it impossible for you to refute what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what you do in response is you move on to another subject. You move on to some other. Okay, well, let's talk about. Okay, now that's a form of deflection, which is to say, when I bring you to the point where you don't have an argument against what I'm saying anymore, rather than acknowledge that my point should compel you in the other direction, you say, yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what about that?
He's wrong, because he doesn't know me. You do.
Okay? So the first observation that I want to make about that is that if I'm right on those things, then the yeah buts don't matter. But the second thing that I want to point out, and I want to explore this with you, is I want to know why you're fighting so hard to preserve this. If all of the things that I'm saying are true, and if I'm able to bring you to the end of the argument, which is evidence in favor of them, in support of them being true, what are you fighting to preserve here with this guy?
So I've been told many times by him that the best of him I haven't seen yet.
Oh, okay.
And that there's a lot about him that he has yet to reveal, like a lot of good things about him that he has yet to reveal to me.
Why hasn't he revealed them?
Well, for one, he says because we're not in person, and for the other, because he says he keeps getting better. He says he's going to return to the person that he was when he was 25.
Well, the first thing I'd say to that is that it's troubling that a 50-year-old's objective is to be the person he was when he was 25 again. That is indicative of delusion.
Ask this guy if it's ever troubling to him that I take a shit in the mornings.
Because you can't be the person you were when you were 25 if you're 50. And if I'm being blunt, why in the hell would you want to be that person again? And I don't mean that as a slight against 25-year-olds. But what I mean is there's a reason why nature ages us. There's a reason why we grow and we enter different phases of our lives. And it's because we were never meant to be 25 forever. And the fact that a 50-year-old man would say, I got to go be 25 again. Okay, there's a delusion there where he doesn't understand that his goal should not be to be 25 again. It should be to be the best 50-year-old he can be.
But he says that, and he also always corrects me whenever I call him 47. He always tells me he's 46 because his birthday's not till October. So he would say, if I called him 50, he would say, I'm not 50, I'm 47. And he
I have a patient who does that.
Say again?
I have a patient who does that. She's a couple of months shy of 70, and if you say that she's 70, she'll get offended with you. She can't let go. She can't accept the fact that she's 70. Lorne can't accept the fact that he's hung up on age. He's got a real issue with age and youthfulness and wanting to be young. It's one of the reasons why he's attracted to young girls, in my opinion, because he wants to be a young guy himself.
His opinion is also that you should date your married therapist too.
You know, there was a passage in that chat log when I reviewed it where he several times he would say, I don't look 37, do I? I don't look 37, do I? He was trying to get her to say, no, you look younger than 37. It's why he wears a hat all the time, because we always associate baldness with age and being old and that sort of thing. And a lot of people are sensitive about that. None of those things in themselves are particularly serious. I mean, that's something a lot of people are uncomfortable with, losing their hair and whatever else. But there's a real hang-up, and as you say this to me, it becomes more apparent to me. There's a real hang-up that he has with age, and he doesn't want to be old, and he wants to be young and feel young, and he wants to know the feeling of young girls, of young women being attracted to him because it makes him feel attractive. And these are things that some people struggle with them, but for a 50-year-old man to be saying, I'm going to get back to being 25 again, that's a red flag. We talk about red flags. That's a big one to me, because a 50-year-old man should be focused on being the best 50-year-old man he can be, not on being 25 again.
I think for him, the idea of being 50 is too much for him. But
yeah. See, this is consistent with what we know about him, which is that he has an inability to accept reality as it is, and he's looking at it in a lot of ways through a child's eyes. He's very, very immature in that regard, and that's a problem. That's a real danger, an indicator of a guy that is not a healthy guy for someone like you to be in that relationship with. Now, there may be somebody out there for him who can help him work through those things, but why does that fall to you? Why should that be your burden?
Well, he's always said that I've been better than his therapist, and that I'm like a therapy for him.
I accept my age. I want the same attitude I had at 25. Your therapy is showing me honest.
Well, that's interesting, but is that what you want to be? Is that how you want to spend the prime years of your life? Being a halfway house to therapy and emotional wellness for someone who's twice your age? How is that healthy and beneficial to you?
Well, another piece is that he's not always going to be twice my age, because when I turned 40 and he's in his 60s,
70.
Not even quite, no, because remember, he'll be in his 60s, so he won't be twice my age then.
But he'll be significantly older than you. He will always be in a different phase of his life than you are. That will never change. And when he's 80 and you're 50 and you've got to change diapers for him, that reality will become very apparent to you.
I'm gonna change your diapers, baby. You can change mine. Lol.
And it's not. I'm not trying. It's not about that. I mean, but I'm not even saying that. Let me put it to you this way, in terms of, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm, a 50-year-old can never be with a 25-year-old. What I'm trying to say is, we have to evaluate situations like that individually, right? There are times when that's a truly beneficial relationship on both sides. It's rare, and it's rare by design. I say by design, to say it is normal and healthy for a 25-year-old to want to be with somebody who's in the same phase of life as she is, because then you're dealing with the same challenges that phase of life presents, and you're building a life together at the same stage. And those are very important. Those are the kinds of life experiences that people develop deep bonds over, and that's the way it should be. But what I mean is, as I look at this situation, I don't see anything that tells me that there's a profound and healthy connection here. Lorne can't articulate it. At least he didn't with me. You haven't been able to articulate it. And every counterpoint that I presented in terms of giving you reasons why it's not a good fit for you, I think I can get you to agree to those. I think I can compel you to say, yeah, you're right, that makes good sense. So,
he's always told me that he loves me, and and I don't say it back, but he's never wavered in that. And
but that's just, he told Kayla he loved her after 6 days.
He did what?
He told Kayla that he was in love with her after 6 days. Love is just a word.
6 days?
6 days. I think it was 6 days. I'll have to go back and look. Oh, no, it was 6 days. I remember because the segment, the NBC segment said 6 days. It was 6 days.
6?
Again, that was back when I was having issues. You're not an issue. Love is not cheating on your wife like he wants to do.
And 6 days. That's right. And I would look at that and say, I'm not sure that Lorne knows what love is. If he thinks that love doesn't develop in 6 days.
That seems kind of fast.
Your age. That seems kind of what?
Fast. 6 days.
Sure, of course. Of course. Here's what I think about Lorne. I think Lorne is in love with the idea of being in love. And he doesn't know the difference between loving the notion of love and actually being in love. So when he experiences one, he thinks he's experiencing the other, and he expresses himself thus. So for him to tell you that he loves you, I want to tell you something else about love. Love is a reciprocal emotion, which means that it is my opinion that true love can never be one way. So the reason I say it is because if you don't love him, then he can't love you. He's experiencing an emotional response that may feel the way that he thinks love feels, and he has convinced himself that it's love. But if you don't love him back, then it's unrequited, and that's not love.
What is that? Opinion. I've heard that before, but what is that?
Well, it's a need. I think it stems from a neediness. What I always said, what I said to my wife is, I would never want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with me, and I would never want to be with somebody that I have to. Hey, Ramona, I'm sorry about that. My phone disconnected.
That's okay. Okay, go ahead. You were saying love is unrequited.
Love. Have you ever heard the expression, you don't marry the person you can live with, you marry the person you can't live without? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah, so I always like that notion. I think what it means is just that if Lorne thinks he loves you and you don't feel the same way, then what Lorne is experiencing is not love, in my opinion. Now, that's not something I wouldn't come at that as a therapist. That's a personal conviction, but it's one I hold pretty strongly. You have a lot to offer. You have a tremendous amount of upside as a person.
Thank you.
Because you're welcome. Because you're attractive physically, you're attractive intellectually, you're interesting, you're successful. All the things we talked about. And so when somebody looks at that, they say, "Yeah, that's a person I should have an attraction to." Right? It makes sense. She ticks all the boxes. She has all the things to offer, right? Mm-hmm. So for someone like Lorne to look at that, it's altogether reasonable that he say, "Yeah, I want to be in love with a person like that." And it's not to say that he's not attracted to you, even emotionally, psychologically, right? But that's very different from love. And I'm not sure, I don't know if Lorne is capable of a deep, profound, the kind of love that you need.
I don't care about your money, and your looks doesn't make you the person I love spending my time with on the phone.
But as I've said before, he's lacking in self-awareness, and he's got a lot of issues with himself that he's got to work out, in my opinion, and those sorts of things can definitely impede a person's ability to have love or to feel love or to be able to feel and express love properly. But those are all points against him in terms of, if we're talking about, is he a good candidate to be in a relationship with you or not? These are all the things, that I keep saying are things that you've got to consider, because these are things that you will have to contend with permanently if you're in a relationship with him. And is that what you see for yourself? Is that what you want for yourself?
Could he be a good partner, though, in spite of having a couple of red flags here and there?
For you, for someone, potentially. For you, I say almost certainly not, because what you haven't demonstrated at all during the course of our dialogue here tonight is anything that he brings to the equation that is essential for you. He's funny. He might be fun to hang around in person. That's basically the entirety of the argument he's given in support of why, as far as arguments in his favor. That he's funny and that he might be fun to hang around with.
And he's told me before he loves spending time with me on the phone. And
okay, but what is that?
And he's now, how do I word it? He's now dedicated to me.
Okay. Well, the first thing I would say to that is that
Our phone time is more than just a phone call.
being able to enjoy a phone conversation with a person, or even a lot of phone conversations over the course of an extended period of time, is hardly a barometer for compatibility in real life. I mean, it's easy to be a good phone conversation. It doesn't take much. I'm just being candid. I mean, that's not something that's hard to do. You put the best of yourself out there, and you don't even have to worry about the physical compatibility, and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, right? It's not a terribly difficult thing to do. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you've got to be able to look at a situation like this holistically. For somebody to tell you, I would say that every relationship in which there's true love is a relationship in which there are good phone conversations. But not every relationship in which there are good phone conversations is a relationship where there's true love. You see what I'm saying? It would be like me saying, well, I know that I'm compatible with my wife because I like the color of her shoes or something. I mean, it's such a relatively minor, so you have a good conversation. You and I are having a good conversation. Does that mean we're in love? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to know, when you say he's now dedicated to me, right? You said that. I want to know what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, there were some things that happened in the past.
It means you're what I want my life to be about, and no other woman.
And I've ignored them and blocked them out. But
Okay, so let me see if I'm understanding where you're going with this. Because you say he's now dedicated to me. So what I'm reading there is that there's a chronological component to what you're saying. Which is to say there was a time when he was not dedicated to you. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, define not dedicated to me.
Well, okay. Why don't you define dedication first? And then I can ask if there was a period where he wasn't that. I would say, by dedication, you mean he's only going to talk to you. He's not going to pursue any sort of casual relationships that are closer to him, or any purely sexual liaisons, that sort of thing, right? Is that what we mean by dedication? That he's saving himself for you. He wouldn't pursue another opportunity if it presented itself. Would you agree that that's a good definition for dedication?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so let me ask you then, was there a time in your relationship with him where that wasn't the case? Where he had other interests, or he was open to other interests, other pursuits?
Yeah, there was. Okay,
well, you want to divulge any details? Is that something that... Let me ask you this first. Did that bother you?
Yeah, but I don't think about it. I don't think about it at all. I just block.
But you can't. No, okay, I want you to remember what we talked about blocking things out. It's not healthy. There's an energy that these kinds of situations produce that emanates from these episodes. Okay, and if you don't deal with them, you don't process that energy, then the energy stays internal, right? And it becomes like a blockage, right? There's a buildup of negative energy. When we don't deal with these things and get and externalize them and address them, these things build up psychologically, and it's very unhealthy. And so I've got to encourage you to open up about these things. I know it's not comfortable or easy to do. I can tell just based on the way you're responding to my questions here, you haven't said a lot. I can tell that those things trouble you very much. And I can tell you that he's doing you a great disservice expecting you to bottle those things up and not deal with them and act like they aren't there, or that they didn't happen, and just not acknowledge them. That's one of the most psychologically unhealthy things we can do, is to deny issues like that. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to talk about it with me here right now. You certainly can if you feel the need to, and I would encourage you to, especially if this is particularly troubling or you feel uncomfortable right now, because these are the things that need to be addressed.
I don't look at other women, and haven't for a long time because of you.
Are you going to tell my parents? Because this is like the last thing that they need to know.
You're my patient, and in the interest of patient practitioner confidentiality, if you explicitly tell me that I'm not to divulge to your parents, then I have to honor that. I will say that if I'm presented with new information that greatly influences my evaluation of this man, that I have to address those things. So I would say, for example, if you were to tell me something that's particularly disturbing to me now, but you said you can't tell my parents, then no, I wouldn't tell your parents. But I would say, there are aspects of the situation that I'm not at liberty to discuss in any specific capacity, to any degree of specificity, except to say that these things are concerning to me. So I would convey a shift or a change in the degree of concern if that's there. But no, I won't reveal anything that you tell me that I can't and that I shouldn't, and that you don't want me to. So no, anything we discuss here in terms of particulars is confidential.
Well, and like I said, mean, I've completely blocked. I'll tell you what happened, but like I said, I've completely blocked it out. I don't think about it, and I've just learned to ignore it and hope it doesn't happen again. And so what happened was.
Can't believe.
Say again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I was. My wife sent me a text message from the other room. I apologize for that. Just asking me if I'm still doing a house call, we call it, or office hours. So I told her yes. Sorry about that. Please continue.
Tell her yes, but it's turned into a free one. Well, okay, but yeah, if you have to send a message, I'll wait till you finish.
No, that's okay. I did it.
Okay.
I was just. Anyway, no, I'm good to go. I'm 100% all ears.
Okay, so I don't know if when you did your research you found that Lorne has a YouTube channel. I don't know if you found that.
No, one that he runs himself?
Yeah, he has his own videos on a YouTube channel. And
no, I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel, and there was this girl, we'll call her Michelle, because that was her name, so we might as well. Anyway, there was this girl named Michelle, and she was all over his videos, and she would just constantly, profess her love for him, and she actually changed her last name on her screen name to his last name, and she was always hitting on him and everything. And I had made a joke. I had said, well, that's your new girlfriend, or is that your new girlfriend? And he said, no. And I said, and so I had asked him just randomly one day if anything had happened between the two of them, because I just got this, how they say women's intuition, and when a guy's cheating, that women just know.
Sure.
So I had just gotten this intuition, and I had asked him, and he vehemently denied it, said no. And so I said, okay. Well, a couple weeks later, I find a video on YouTube where he's trying to schedule sex, and basically what had happened was he had a sexting text message chat where he had asked if he could stick his hot dog in her taco and all this other shit, and he had went to Dunkin' Donuts to meet her for sex, and he had brought condoms. But I've blocked it out.
How long ago was this?
This was in, what's this month? This is August. May, I think.
It was around April.
Okay. And before this episode, had he already told you that he loved you, that he was in love with you?
Yes, many times.
Okay, so you were under the impression that he felt about you then the way he claims to feel about you now. Is that right?
Correct.
Well, the first thing I will point out is this: all of the negative things, or the things that he would perceive, that maybe you would perceive as negative that I've identified about him over the course of our dialogues tonight. He would and did when he was on the phone with us earlier, defend his position by saying, "I love her. I'm committed to her." Okay. So that was the one thing that he thought he had in his defense. Now, I've maintained that that's an altogether inadequate defense. But that was the one thing that he kept falling back on. And now I'm learning that even that isn't true. Hasn't been true. Isn't absolute. Right? So all of the things, this is basically a mirror of the same dynamic when we talked about you gave him this ultimatum. He had to go 3 months without drinking, without all these things that you said he had to stop doing for 3 months, and he hasn't been able to perform. Right? He'll say, well, the last 2 weeks. I'll say, well, the deal was for 3 months, so you didn't make it. Right? Now we find out that this claim that he's committed to you exclusively and he's devoted to you and that sort of thing, that he can't seem to hold on to that either. And I would point out further that that's just an episode you happen to know about. And just like I said before, how do you know he hasn't been drinking, right? You can't smell his breath. How do you know that he's been faithful? Now, you said, I just blocked it out. You already know what I'm going to say. Well, you already know what I'm going to say to that.
What?
That that is completely unhealthy, that you're living in denial, and that fundamentally you're no different than the battered housewife who has an excuse for every black eye that her husband gives her.
There hasn't been anything since that. And this guy has nothing to say about being dedicated when he's hitting on you. And that's mental abuse to his wife.
This is why abused women, we both know that frequently abused women stay in abusive relationships for years and years, some of them to their grave. They never leave, despite the fact that their husbands abuse them or cheat on them or otherwise treat them wrongly. And that's what's going on here. He hasn't been any of the things that he wants to believe he is. He hasn't been faithful to you. He hasn't been good to you. He hasn't been those things. And you're denying, and you keep making excuses for him, or even worse, you just don't deal with the pain at all. How in the world is that fair to you?
I mean, because, if he... Well... I mean...
Were there any other instances where he's been unfaithful that you know about? Is this an isolated thing that you know about?
Define unfaithful.
You define unfaithful. You tell me what it would take for you to get your heart broken by something he did. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional. It can be as simple as him having a prolonged dialogue with somebody else. Whatever you would say constitutes cheating in the context of this relationship. Has he done it before that you know about?
I haven't even touched or talked to any other woman.
Well, he probably wouldn't consider this one cheating.
Do you consider it cheating, and if so, has he done it before?
I don't know if it's cheating.
Well, make that determination, him or you?
Well, he said that it doesn't count because he was drunk.
Oh, boy. This guy just gets better and better. What did he do? Do you mind if I ask you that?
Damn it.
You're not under any...
Well, I'm just thinking of how to tell it so it doesn't sound as bad as... Okay, I know how I can tell it. So, that girl Ember.
Crap, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a video where he had gotten drunk and he had apparently called her over and over and over again, and I heard him. He's recorded. He called me a bitch, and because no, I shouldn't tell you that part, but he called me a bitch because, and then he begs her for a video of her pussy and her tits.
Oh, Ramona. Is there more? You said there was a part you didn't want to tell me.
Oh,
I don't know how it's worse than that, but nothing would surprise me at this point. This guy.
Well, this part made me laugh, but I don't think it's funny. But he had sent me video footage of a specific area of his body, and he thought I had shared it, and he called me a bitch twice. He had said that bitch, and then he said that fucking bitch. And I didn't share. I didn't share. No, yeah, he thought I had put it on the internet, and I didn't. I absolutely did not.
Was it his penis?
No.
I'm not sure what else it could have been on a guy.
Behind his penis.
Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. Did you ask for him to send you that?
I suggested it, and he did it because he wanted to show his... he said he wanted to show his love for me, and that's why he did it, so... I thought that was...
I want to know, in what universe you show your love for a woman by sending her a picture of your asshole? What the hell is wrong with this guy?
I don't like this guy. He's two-faced. You're telling him too much.
I'm sorry. I'm being unprofessional now when I say those things. We're off the record, so I feel that I can speak with a bit more latitude than I would if we were truly in session. Obviously, this is off the record, but that's very, very bizarre. Very bizarre. But that's almost demented. But let's get back to the bigger issue, which is that he... I would say that is infidelity. That calling another woman and asking her to send him a picture of her genitals certainly qualifies as emotional infidelity, and that it's completely irrelevant whether he was inebriated or not. And I would further point out that for him to defend that action to any extent by saying, well, I was drunk, is just more deflection on his part. It's just another example of him trying to blame something else.
Stay calm.
Other than himself. But I would say that even the bigger issue is, I'd say equally concerning for me, is that he said these terrible things about you to her. Because we're back to the verbal abuse again. That's the trifecta. That's drunkenness, verbal abuse, and infidelity all in one shot, in one action.
Fuck this asshole.
I mean, look, you got to be candid with me because I really like.
You love the word.
I like candor. Yeah, I like eating candy because candy's like. But I want you to be honest with me. We're looking at this now objectively, and part of the reason you're having so much trouble articulating these episodes is because talking about it this way forces you to make it objective, right? It's an object now. It is no longer a subjective experience in your mind that you can just ignore or try to rationalize or reason away in some way. Now it's an object. It's in front of us. I can see it too. So we can look at it objectively and talk about it as this standalone object that we can analyze and discuss. And looking at it objectively, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you are able to see this. I mean, if you're able to reason this, but the reason it's so hard for you to talk about it right now is because you already know, you can intuit what I'm going to say, and you know that I'm right. You know that if this were someone you cared about telling you these things about the person they were with, that you would feel the way that you can tell I feel. And you know that you would be giving them the same advice that I'm giving you. You know that it wouldn't be right. You know that it wouldn't be healthy for them. And that the thing for them to do, the expedient thing for them to do for their own benefit would be to detach.
He's a great therapist.
Would be to make a break from that situation. Ramona, you know this is not healthy. You know this is not good for you. I don't have to convince you of that. I just have to get you to the point where you're willing to acknowledge it.
But it can be healthy if I just ignore it, ignore the past.
But I'm telling you that ignoring those things is intrinsically unhealthy. It would be like saying, well, I was diagnosed with cancer, but if I just ignore it, then I can still live a healthy life.
This guy is just like stories about things between you and me.
The problem doesn't go away simply because you refuse to acknowledge it. Do you understand that?
Well, I mean, that example, but I mean...
Okay. Let's do this. Let's for the sake of an analogy, turn our attention completely away from your relationship with Lorne, and let me challenge you with something.
Okay.
Is there any problematic, intrinsically bad situation or development or event or entity in the world that you can think of?
Wait, say that again?
Simply ignore. I'll say it again, and I want you to try to think of a situation or an event or an entity or a development of some kind anywhere in the world, in any situation, in any context, that is intrinsically bad, for which ignoring it is the solution. Okay, we agree that ignoring cancer is not healthy, right?
No.
Okay. Let's say your next door neighbor punches you in the face every time you walk out the front door. Would you agree that ignoring that situation is the right course of action or the wrong course of action? You got to deal with it, in other words, right?
Well, if he did that, that would probably make my mom stop trying to get me to marry him, but...
let's assume that your neighbor was someone more like Lorne instead of like your real neighbor, because I don't think your real neighbor would hit you based on what I've been told, but Lorne I'm not so sure about. But I'm just, I made that up. But a fire, let's say you're cooking in your kitchen and you accidentally start a fire. Would it be a good strategy to ignore it and just ignore it and look in another part of the kitchen?
No.
What he's saying is that he wants to talk you into thinking I'm bad.
Okay.
But like...
You have a friend. Most people have a best friend. Your best friend, the person you're closer to than anybody. Someone you grew up with, maybe, or a cousin. Do you have anybody like that in your life? I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of people who are close to me.
Okay, I want you to think about your best friend, right? Whoever you would say off the top of your head, one of your best friends, right?
Okay.
And this person comes to you and says, my boyfriend is emotionally abusive. He calls me a bitch. He texts other women and calls other women and tells them to send them pictures of their bodies. He has a website and somebody made a sexual proposition to him on the website. He went and met that girl and tried to hook up with her. Would you ever give your friend the advice that you're giving yourself? Would you ever say to her, well, you just got to ignore those things so you can deal with this guy? What advice would you give your friend?
Well, I would. I'd tell her to run.
You know what you would tell your friend. You would tell her the same thing I'm telling you.
I'd tell her to run, I guess.
Or to take a look at that person and go with what your heart tells you.
Or to, you've just got to recognize that the needs of a situation don't change just because it's you.
But
and I would say that quite the contrary, it's the converse. You need to value yourself at least as much as you would value your friend. Are you worth any less as a person than she is?
no.
So why would you give yourself different advice than you would give her?
Because I can deal with it.
Why should you have to? You can deal with a fire in the kitchen for a while, too. There's people that have cancer for years before it finally subsumes them. The issue is not your capacity to deal with pain and anguish and abuse and evil. The issue is that you have no obligation to sustain all those things. For whose benefit? For the benefit of some unemployed 50-year-old loser who can't hold a job, can't find a job, can't stop drinking, can't stop screwing around, can't stop treating you like garbage.
That fuck is calling me a loser. And he doesn't call you that.
Why on earth should you live a life that is detrimental to you and stay in a situation that is clearly not healthy for you just so he can be happy? What in the world has this guy done to warrant that kind of happiness, to merit that kind of happiness, that anybody should sacrifice themselves? And you're not just anybody. You're wonderful.
Well, do you want to know what he told me?
Sure.
He has told me, well, multiple times, but he has told me that he can, A, make me happier than anyone else, and B, that he would love me more than anybody else.
Well, those are easy. Ramona, I can make you happier than anybody else, and I can love you more than anybody else. I, Barry Viner, your therapist, who's saying that to you right now, I can love you more than anybody, and I can show you the world, and I can make you feel like the queen of the universe. And I will sweep you off your feet, and every day I will make you feel like it's new love 50 years from now.
That fuck is hitting on you again.
Diamonds in your eyes, and the sun rises and sets with you. And now look, do you see how easy that is? It's just words. Anybody can say that. I'll sweet talk you for hours. What does that mean? What is that worth? What does that accomplish? They're just words. You see?
But
it's actions that tell us. It's the actions that tell us what a person's caliber is.
My words to you are not just words.
But Ramona, yeah, I'm drunk. Yeah, I called you a bitch a few minutes ago, but that was a few minutes ago. Let it go. Yeah, I went to meet that girl for sex, but that was like a week ago. Let it go. I only love you. Rainbows in your eyes and sparkles in the moon, and I'll love you forever, and I'll pick you flowers every day. I mean, those are just words.
Well, in his defense, he's homophobic, so he would never say rainbows in your eyes. No, but
fair enough. Fair enough. But he's homophobic. That's good. That's progressive.
Oh, God.
That's the kind of open-minded, progressive, forward-thinking visionary you want to be with. But do you see what I'm saying? All he's ever given you are words. And when his words don't line up with his actions, you have to ask yourself, which has more bearing on in terms of being able to tell me what kind of person this really is?
But he's always said that his words to me aren't just words.
Then why don't his actions match them?
Because of stuff in his past.
So the stuff in his past made him call you a bitch.
Yes.
And ask stuff in his past made him ask Ember for a picture of her vagina.
Well,
what stuff in his past made him do those things?
Well, he said stuff in his past because of...
What stuff in his past made him
He
do those
said
things?
Amanda James made him call me
Amanda James made him call you a bitch. Do you believe that? Does that make any sense to you?
Well, I'm just telling you what he told me.
How did Amanda James make him a bitch? Make him call you a bitch? How did she manage to do that?
He said something about her, like... She said that her niece was her daughter, or something, like her daughter was her niece, and somebody...
That's why he called you a bitch.
Like,
because she said her niece was her daughter 20 years ago, he had to call you a bitch?
And he said that he didn't go on a date for 2 years because of her.
What is the worst mistake you think you've ever made? What is the worst thing that you've ever done intentionally? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but think of something that you would say, I really shouldn't have done that. And I did it intentionally. I didn't do it accidentally.
Let me think.
Have you ever stolen anything?
Well, that is funny because that was what we were talking about that made my dad cry, which the only other time I've seen him cry, when I was a teenager, me and my friend, we went to the mall and we had stolen some stuff out of a store. And, like, I had never done anything bad, never gotten in any kind of trouble or anything. And here's the mall cop calling my dad to come get me, you know. And he cried. He wasn't bawling, but tears were coming out of his eyes. And so when I saw...
How old were you?
I was maybe 15, 16.
Let's go with 16. Anybody ever call you a name when you were younger than 16?
Did they ever call me a name?
Yeah, you know how kids are. Kids call each other names. Kids are mean sometimes. Anybody ever call you a name when you were a little kid?
Yeah, like when I was 15, the guy who... my little 15-year-old boyfriend called me. When I was 15, my little 15-year-old boyfriend called me the B word.
Yeah, that's right. You told me about that. You said your mother was very upset. Now, when the 15-year-old called you a bitch, when you were 15, did that make you go and shoplift from the mall when you were 16?
Oh, no, no, not at all.
How on earth did Amanda James telling Lorne that her daughter was her niece compel him to call Ember drunk and ask for a picture of her vagina and call you a bitch 20 years later? How on earth does one thing cause the other?
Because he said that...
I know what he said. I'm asking you to explain how that works. How does that work? How does the Amanda James daughter thing from 20 years before, how does that make him in 2017 call Ember and call you a bitch and ask for a picture of her vagina? How does one thing make the other happen?
Because if I'm playing with him, I don't know outside of what he told me.
Right. You know why you don't know?
Why?
Because that doesn't make any sense.
Calm down.
Because that is him blaming his actions on something totally unrelated because he doesn't want to take responsibility for them.
Well, why?
He doesn't want to be the guy that called Ember drunk, asked for a picture for vagina and called you a bitch. He doesn't want to be that guy. So it must be Amanda James from 20 years ago. That's what made him do it. That doesn't make any damn sense, and you know it. And the reason you're quiet right now, the reason you're struggling for words right now, is because I have brought you to a place where intellectually you can't escape the truth of what I'm saying.
But I'm not.
You cannot construct an argument
But
with what I'm telling you right now.
But
You can't find the words.
if like
You're struggling right now. You can't put that together. Because I'm right.
This guy is a loser. He's spending too much time trying to make me look bad, instead of focusing on letting you talk about your feelings.
And I'm irrefutably right. And there's nothing you can say in refutation of the point I've just made. And you know it.
but
So stop defending him. He shouldn't have done it. And he did it because he's a bastard. Because he decided to do this thing. Because he wanted to do this thing. And he didn't give a damn in that moment whether it was right or wrong. He just wanted to do it, so he did it. And that's selfish. And it's dangerous.
I've called him selfish before, and he's told me that he's the least selfish person that there is.
Of course he told you that. He's also told you that he's devoted to you, and we know that's not true. And he told you that he wouldn't drink and be abusive for 3 months, and we know that's not true. And he said that he didn't try to have sex with a 13-year-old girl, and we know that's not true.
Well, I mean,
The real question is, does this guy ever tell the truth? Not, does he ever lie? Sounds to me like all the man does is lie.
Well, he's 2 weeks into the 3-month thing.
Why isn't? But you made the rules more than 2 weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
So why isn't he more than 2 weeks in?
Because he got drunk the next night.
That's right. What does that tell us?
But he
I
said
know this
that.
stuff isn't easy to face up to. This is what we call tough love. I'm telling you what you need to hear, even if it doesn't feel good to hear it.
Well, I was going to tell you why he got drunk and why he gets drunk. And
Do you think it's going to change my position on the issue? You can tell me. I'll listen. I'll let you tell me. But do you think it's going to have any effect at all on what I'm saying right now?
Ask him when he's going to start being a therapist and letting you talk about your feelings.
well, maybe if you just hear me out. Like, I mean, and I'm not saying.
You're over the evening. You haven't done it once yet. You haven't once successfully defended anything he's done. But I'll give you another shot. Give it another try. Go ahead.
All right. Well, this is what he told me, and
Well, reliable witness.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying why he told me that he gets drunk and he calls me names, and it's because, you know, the doctor friend of mine who is so popular around my social circle and with my mom, well, he doesn't like the fact that he and I are so close.
Okay.
And so he said that makes him drink.
Okay. It makes him drink.
He said that makes him drink.
Makes him drink.
So in a way, I guess it's my fault.
It's your fault that he drinks because it makes him drink.
Like, because the doctor hits on me and we're close, and he said that that's what causes him to drink.
Not your fault. It's just the way I dealt with it then.
Well, have you ever driven to a donut restaurant because you thought you were going to have the opportunity to have sex with the doctor?
Have I done what you said?
Have you ever driven to a donut restaurant because you thought the doctor was waiting there for you to have sex with him?
Oh no, Dunkin' Donuts not vegan. I wouldn't go there.
The vegan donut store. Have you ever hit on the doctor? Have you ever? Let me broaden the question a little bit.
Okay.
And you feel free to be honest. Have you ever been unfaithful to Lorne in the time that you two have been what you would call committed to each other or together or whatever it is? Have you ever been unfaithful to him?
I can one better that, and he doesn't believe me, but I have never been unfaithful to anybody I've ever dated, ever in my entire life.
Well, if the doctor is interested in you, have you made it clear to him that you are involved with someone else?
I mean, the doctor doesn't. His position in this is kind of like almost like Ramona's just like buying time. I don't know how to describe it because I don't know. I mean, he's not. He doesn't think that Ramona is in anything serious. Like he's thinking, Ramona's not in anything serious. This is just, I don't know what he thinks, but I know he absolutely 100% still thinks that he has a chance. And I accidentally told Lorne one day, well, I don't know if it was accidentally, it was kind of like one of those things where the truth slips out. I told him that if he and I weren't together, then I would definitely go for the doctor, and I told him if he and I broke up, then I would definitely be with the doctor.
And is that how you feel now?
What do you mean?
I mean, are you attracted to the doctor, and do you think that's something you would be interested in pursuing if Lorne weren't in the picture?
I mean, I would. I won't lie. I would. I of course haven't told any. I mean, he knows that. I told him that, and I told him that a while ago. But I'm not going to tell my mom that or anything. Like, my parents don't need to know that because that'll just make them even more crazy. But
tell me something about this doctor. He, how close is he to you, to your age?
Maybe he's about 3.5, 4 years older. 3.5 years older.
So, and he's practicing surgery. You said, is he? So he's obviously he got an early start in his education. Obviously, he's established himself professionally. He's a freak
because he, in school, he skipped 2 grades. I think he skipped...
I did too, if that's what you're looking for in a guy. I'm telling you that...
he skipped... I think he skipped 1st grade and 7th grade. I'm kidding. I know I'm kidding. I'm wrong, but something like that. I think he skipped an elementary and a middle school grade, and so that put him graduating from high school when he was I think 15 or something ridiculous. But also because of his, and I did this too, going to college early, but he did it way earlier than me in the sense that he, because he had all his college credits, so when he was in what was supposed to be 12th grade, when he was 15, I think, and he was in 12th grade, he actually, and I did this too, I went to college half day and then high school half day. And so he started college at something ridiculous, like 15. I mean, it was insane.
I went to 12th grade half a year and graduated.